Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading's Sunday worship service. My name is Allison Sillers, and I am a member of the worship arts and streaming tech teams and the governing board. You'll see a lot of me today. My pronouns are she and her. We choose to share our pronouns because we know people of all genders are whole, holy, and loved. This morning, let us bring our authentic selves into worship together. These are challenging times. The grief and uncertainty we may be feeling right now is real. And also today, we have each chosen to make time and space to be together here, online or in person, to connect, to think, to feel. We show up and commit ourselves to the work of radical welcome, of personal growth, and hope for the future. This commitment is a holy bond binding us to one another. If this is your first time with us, we are so happy you have joined us. Please visit our webpage to learn more about our beloved community, including ways you can connect with our staff and lay leadership. If you are watching this service online during its initial broadcast at 10 a.m. on October 29th, please join us on Zoom after the service for our annual October members meeting, not our regular Zoom social hour. The link can be found in the warrant sent to you last weekend. If you are here with us in the sanctuary, take some time to enjoy snacks and coffee in Fellowship Hall before the annual meeting begins in the sanctuary promptly at 11:30. Reverend Laura is away this week, as most of you may have noticed this morning, and we'll be away until November 9th. Today and next Sunday, we are in the incredibly capable hands of Reverend Dr. Susan Sahusky, that's how you pronounce it, Sahusky Brown. Reverend Sahusky Brown is a retired minister emerita and served the First Congregational Society of Lominster for 25 years before retiring from settled ministry in 2017. Welcome to this time, this space, and this opportunity to be together. Let us move into worship, open to connection in all its forms.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to be with you today. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I will be having the privilege of gathering with you, gathering in our thoughts and our hopes and our fears, our breath, letting go our fears, our frustrations, our clenched hands and bodies, gathering in our families and our friends and our foes, gathering in all those near and far, gathering in our wandering minds and our wounded hearts, gathering into this special time and place, and then letting go of ourselves, our need to know, our need to control it all, letting go of a story's predetermined end, letting go of all that closes out love and goodness. We are ready. We are ready for a time of gathering in and letting go, breathing in and breathing out as we gather once again in this special, sacred community.
As we light our chalice this morning with Unitarian Universalists all around the globe, I invite you to call into your heart the flame you kindle this morning, the flame of truth, of community, of commitment to love and to justice. Please join me in reciting our chalice lighting words, which are printed in the laminated sheets in your pew next to your hymnals. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. Each week, we recite our children's affirmation as a reminder of the most important elements of who we are. At this point, if we have any friends who'd like to help, you're welcome to come up. Please join me in reciting these words and in doing the hand motions if you know them. We are Unitarian Universalists, the Church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Thanks, friends. Please rise in body or in spirit and sing hymn number 188 in your gray hymnal, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Thank you. Does anyone want to come up here and join me? Children of all ages. Good morning, everybody. So once a long time ago, 50 years, I lived in the same house that I recently moved back to. And we are now in the midst of remodeling. More about that tale later. This was the home that my first spouse and I raised our children in until we split. And I moved to Leominster, Mass. To begin my ministry there. My boys are now very tall and getting a little gray around the edges and have children of their own. But once upon those 50 years ago, they were almost 5 and almost 7. Who here is almost 5? Almost 7. You're almost 7, and you are already 7. Okay, all right. Well, that's how. Well, you might appreciate this story because when we lived in Winchendon, it was on a dirt road, and the nearest neighbor was 1 mile away. And there were no street lights. And on Halloween, we never, ever once had a trick-or-treater. Never, ever once had a trick-or-treater. I don't know about you, but Halloween is a fun time to get into costume and to sing pumpkin carols. What? You've never sung pumpkin carols? Well, you're going to get a chance. All right. We would go from house to house because I would bring my boys to my mother's house, the neighborhood that I grew up in. And I would bring them, no matter how cold it was outside. Halloween happened, right? And as my boys went door to door, I could vividly remember walking up to the same houses, knocking on the door, saying trick or treat. And at the Andersons, we would get Mars bars every year. And at the Stevensons, popcorn balls. And at the Grimes, Charleston chews. And at the Kaminsky's, where their pet monkey was dressed up every year as a crow. And that pet monkey would make faces at us out the picture window. We got Hershey Kisses at the St. Germain's and nothing at all at the last house on the end of the road. We were being welcomed or shunned these 50 years or so ago by the same people that still live there. And at one home, I remember the occupants looking at my boys, Eric, the youngest, in particular, and then looking out at me and asking, "Who do you belong to? Who do you belong to? I don't remember seeing your face in this neighborhood. Who do you belong to?" Right? Now, I had told them that this question might come up, and I had suggested an answer. They could say they were Mr. and Mrs. Stoll's grandson, or that they were Charlie Fay's great-grandchild. More about him next week when we talk about ancestors. Or you might say, I am Susan Stoll's son. That's my maiden name. Eric was the first to respond to the question by puffing up in his full 5-year-old, dressed as a Three Musketeers outfit and saying, "I am my mother's son. I am Eric." That's who I belong to. Well, then he held out his bag and expected his treats. Who are you? Who are you? Such an important question. And I've asked Allison to help by writing on her pumpkin. Allison, who are you? Who do you belong to? Who are your people? Your family? You all have pumpkins, and throughout the service today, I'm going to encourage you to take time to write on that pumpkin, who do you belong to? Who are you? Who is your family? Who is your community? And pumpkin carols, are you ready? Okay, we're going to sing a couple of pumpkin carols. What's that? On the back of the order of service, pumpkin carols. Beth is going to play the very familiar music of Silver Bells, and we will sing number 3, and then when that is done, we will go right into singing pumpkin carol number 2 to the music of Angels We Have Heard on High, which was my mother's most favorite pumpkin carol. No, Christmas. All right, take time to think about who you are. Who do you belong to? What's your community? And Beth?
Soon it will be Halloween.
Okay, my friends, you can go back to your seats. We're going to light some candles. Sorry, folks. We got confused. Okay, so we're going to sing traveling music to send out our owl friends. So, Beth, thank you. We will take time during our service now to light our candles of community, of peace, and of justice. We light our red candle of community to signify our interconnection. Wherever you are in time and space, newcomer or longtime member, here in the sanctuary or joining us virtually, we light this candle holding you in love. May this light welcome and hold you, reminding you that your presence is needed in this community. As we light this candle, I invite you to speak aloud the name or names of people who are on your mind and heart today to bring them fully into this space. You have a name to say, Nancy? Okay. Thank you. Hold those names in your mind and your heart and bring them fully into this space. Anne, and I say Reverend Laura. And we light our blue candle of peace for all the places worldwide where people lived with the threat of war and are living with the violence. And this week, the terror has come closer to us in the events in Maine. And we light our yellow candle of justice. May all people everywhere live their lives in freedom, and may we each do our part in the world for justice and liberation for all in our global community. And as we recommit ourselves to the work of love and justice, may we each give voice to this commitment by saying together, Amen. I would invite you to join me in a moment of prayerful reflection as I say, Holy One, whom we call by many names, let us be together in moments of reflection. May we find hope when hope is fleeting. May we find joy and share it with others. And may we find that in spite of sorrows, the world of nature and of precious community can sustain us. May all who are hurting from lack, from oppressions, from grief, from the devastating deaths around them, from hurtful relationships, and from a world which seems to be imploding around us, know that though we have no answers, we do know that gathered together, some relief can peek through. And in the words of Reverend Laura, I say, O sacred source of life that encompass us all, may we find solace in this time of turmoil. May we find courage though we are scared. And may we speak and act with compassion and humility so that wisdom and peace prevail. It is time now to bring your
sorrows, and your joys, your celebrations and concerns forward. And if you have a joy or a sorrow you would like to honor through lighting a silent candle, you are invited to come forward now. As a reminder, if you prefer not to be visible on the online stream, we ask you to use the table to your right, closest to the Austin transept. May any sorrows that you have been lessened by the lighting of the candles, and any joys been increased. Please, if you have a need, a sorrow, don't leave here with it on your heart or your mind. Come and find me, Allison, or any other person in this beloved community to talk to. Know that you are cared for. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Susan. Reverend Susan chose the reading this morning, and this is what she shares with us about it. Reverend Ziegler was one of a group of 10 Universalist ministers who met to discuss new ways of understanding Universalism a few years before the Unitarians and the Universalists joined together formally in 1965. He was a member of a Universalist Unitarian study group that I am in, that has been meeting for over 110 years to keep the spirit of universalism alive, recognizing always the changing nature of living. Today's reading is a snippet from the Reverend Albert Ziegler. It is given to us to live in days in which great and sweeping changes are taking place, in which truths long assumed were disproven, foundations long depended on are found uneasy and seem about to crumble, in which the whole structure of our culture and civilizations seems to be threatened. Let us then know that all that makes life meaningful for us does not depend on governments and systems, does not devolve from artifacts and artifices, from gold and silver and possessions, but from the simple and profound relationships of persons with each other, and of each with the natural universe of which we are a part. This is at last the only wealth and joy. This is at last the only meaning in life.
When the waves roll on
I should probably add that I have not been a member of that group for 110 years. So in addition to serving the Leominster Unitarian Universalist congregation for those 25 years, I came out of retirement to serve as interim minister at Portsmouth, New Hampshire for 2.5 years, retiring again from there on July 30th, 2022. Portsmouth was in need of a short-term minister to help them through a transition time. When their ministry team left, they were late into the game finding an interim, and the person they called was not a good fit. They terminated that relationship and decided to call someone to come in and fill in for a short-term few weeks till they got back into the UUA system of interims. I was asked to accept that invitation. It was a good fit. My background in trauma ministry, having been a chaplain with the Leominster Fire Department for 25 years, and also a founding member of the Unitarian Universalist Trauma Response Ministry. As an aside, you'll be happy to know that they are teams actively working at supporting the many congregations in Maine who have been impacted by the violence that took place there this past week. And I love our Unitarian Universalist congregations with all its quirks and its challenges. I love UU congregations, so it made it easy to say yes to accepting their invitation and to staying longer after COVID-19 hit. In fact, the same week, same day that I said yes to the short-term visiting minister status was the day that the director of Lifespan Ministry and I decided we could not meet in person at the church on that Sunday, this very first Sunday that I was going to be introduced to a congregation. I did not meet them in person for over a year, and I wept. I wept that first day when I looked out and saw people in the pews. As you know, the not meeting in person during COVID was challenging for everyone, and it brought, as Reverend Ziegler wrote, great and sweeping changes. And it meant changing all the systems. All the systems, every system needed to shift and shuffle. How did everyone survive? They did so because of the desire to be in right relations with others. Again, Reverend Ziegler reminds us, life is meaningful from simple and profound relationships with each other and the natural universe of which we are a part. I am a third-generation Unitarian Universalist. I love congregational life. My father was treasurer, my mother was moderator. They served on search committees. I grew up like these little rugrats over here, running around lolly columns during fellowship time. I love congregational lives, and I know what UU congregations and churches are capable of, and I know when UU churches are off the mark. And I love systems theory. I love systems theory because I was an addictions counselor for 24 years before going into the ministry. And I love how systems theory helps explain how and why a church, a congregation, a family, or an institution functions as it does. And I know when systems keep people in and when systems keep people out. When systems are unhealthy and when systems need a shakeup. I recognize all of that. I like to think of a system, well, I'll tell you one of my experiences in Portsmouth, much different than in Leominster. And this will help explain why I think of the systems the way that I do. there was a water problem with a heating system up at Portsmouth, and the heating company was going to come at 7 o'clock in the morning and take a look at it. And it was my first week in Portsmouth, and I showed up to let them in. And the property committee said to me, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, in Leominster, I would let people in, and I would learn about the system." And they said, "Reverend Susan, we have a property committee to do that." So, but I learned about heating systems from Leominster. And I think of a system as a heating system. It's like a water-based heating system. The thermostat controls the temp. Too cold, the water has to be heated up, and it has to circulate all around. And it has to be in a closed circuit, following a set pattern to warm up an area. It's a closed system, and it better be a closed system, because when it's not, it leaks. I can tell you about those too, right? And too hot, the heating system takes a break, and it closes down, and it has to wait. It has to readjust. So it's the same principle in any institution, in any family, in any institution, in schools, and in any place where people have a social setting, that system that has to function. Now, being with Portsmouth as an unintentional interim allowed us to work together to look at the cycle of the system and to introduce some new ways and exciting changes that came about by intentionally breaking in and disrupting the closed system and being comfortable, if not anxious, with the leaks that happen. It was an inbreaking of the spirit. It was an actual inbreaking of the spirit in ways that we were allowed to see this system shift. And we began looking at ways that we could manage our anxiety during COVID, and to think about how we looked now and how we wanted to look in the future, and not rush in to fill a void or to plug that leak. It was fun. It was hard. You all know about how hard it is to be coming out of a COVID time in a congregation. We were anxious, and who could not be during COVID, but we kept our relationships at the forefront, and we talked through tough issues. I notice you have a covenant out on your wall that talks about talking directly about the issues, being forgiven and being forgiving. You know, that's what we did. We broke apart the system, we changed it, and it was not a short-term ministry any longer. We have an unhappy part of our system over here. There she is, okay. So then in August of 22, I moved back to Winchington to a home that I had bought in 1966 and I had lived in before I went off to live a different life. It is the home I spoke about in the Time for All Ages. There are still no streetlights. There are still no trick-or-treaters, but my boys are too big to go from house to house. One of my boys, Scott, joined the Navy and found his new home place in Murrieta, California, near San Diego. Anybody know where that is? Okay, great. Anybody know where Winchington, Mass. is? All right, thank you. The other son, Eric, stayed in Winchington. He married Andrea, and they have a son, my 26-year-old grandson, Kevin. Andrea's mother, sister, and daughter are part of a system. And I thought when I moved back to Winchington that it would be an easy transition for me to be back in that system. I had thought that though they lived very close, we would see each other often, and we would get together more than holidays and birthdays, because I was just around the corner. I thought that, but I forgot how hard it is to break into a system. A system functions in a particular way to keep things in or to keep things out. And I forgot how that they were a system. They were like that closed system that I spoke about, that loop around and around, and they function well, but they're not open systems. I knew that they loved me. I knew they were happy I was back to be up there. I knew that I was rebuilding that 60-year-old house to be accessible and for me and my spouse forever home. And at the same time, they had a system, and it was not easy for me to break into until something happened that broke that circle, and then the system encompassed me too. And that's what happens with systems. Until something happens, till that inbreaking of spirit allows a leak, then the circle gets bigger. That something happened was that I was supposed to be able to move into the new home after the closing of my summer place on September 30th. Any of you ever built a home know that the dates, right? Yeah, okay. The house was not ready, and it's still not. Thank goodness for my lovely neighbor who opened her home to me, but that left no place for my year-old kitties to call home, because my neighbor has a dog, Annie, and she has an allergy to cats. So my kitties had no place to go, but Eric, Andrew, and Kevin were delighted to take Katie and Zita, the kitties, in their house until I could move in. Those cats, my kitties, Katie and Zita, broke apart the system, and since they have been there, I go over often for visits. My son cooks for me. My grandson calls, asks if I'm coming over to have dinner and lunch with them, and that circle has stretched to involve even more people. Life is meaningful because of simple and profound relationships with others. And this morning, as we gather here, I invite you to think about the systems you have established in your life, in your professional, your personal, and this institutional lives. Ponder all the ways, think of all the ways that that system could be broken in to allow the inbreak of the spirit of love to enter in, so that the group can shift, the group can expand, and you can grow into be that wonderful Unitarian Universalist congregation that you are, that you have the potential to be, and that you can be even more. Think about how you can meet all those great and sweeping changes. Systems are wonderful ways to think about how we live and breathe and are with one another. And thinking about systems might help you to think about a way to allow the inbreak of spirit to be something more. So may it be. So may it be.
Thank you, Reverend Susan. A simple yet powerful way for each of us to help heal the world is to learn about and support the good works of charitable organizations and become more involved in our community. Each Sunday, UUCR shares half the money received in the collection plate to a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. Our Share the Plate recipient for October is Greater Boston PFLAG. PFLAG is a national organization that provides support, information, and resources for LGBTQIA+ people and those who love them. Their work is driven by its vision of a world in which LGBTQIA+ individuals are safe, supported, included, and equal in their families, in their communities, and in society. UUCR hosts the monthly Reading PFLAG support group. It is hosted by Martha Moore on the second Thursday of every month. Our congregation exists and thrives through the gifts of those who call this place their spiritual home. If you are here with us in the sanctuary, you may put your gift in the collection plate as it goes by. Otherwise, you may make a gift online or send a check. Please give as generously as you are able or willing to our Share the Plate offering to support Greater Boston PFLAG and the mission of UUCR. If this is your first time with us, your presence is gift enough. Thank you for the gifts, both material and spiritual, that you have each brought here today.
Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow make us wise, kin to all that lives and dies. Love calls us on. Love calls us on. Words and deeds of those before us, waken here to keep us strong. Lend our voices in the chorus of creation's living song. Courage bids us lift our eyes upward to the shining skies. Hope calls us on. Hope calls us on. Loyal guides in love and duty, lead us with a trusted light. Blessed are those whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and right. Honor is their earthly prize. By their work we realize faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. We have shared a radiant hour when the truth has made us free, and the Spirit's gracious power dreamed of good that yet shall be. Bright the path before us lies. Joyful pilgrims now we rise. Life calls us on. 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 Life calls us on.
Thank you so much, choir. I'm Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator, and my pronouns are she and her. Our congregational life is where we put our mission to nurture and explore individual spirituality, build a committed and loving community, and help heal the world. And here is where we do the work to make it all happen. Our November monthly newsletter is out. It's full of details about the many church activities happening in the weeks to come. Let me know if you need help accessing this. This week, there are numerous ways to live out our mission for your own spirituality, our community, and even our world, including Buddhist meditation, last Tuesday of the month book club, Bread and Roses meal prep, our annual fall leaf raking on Saturday morning, and next Sunday's spirituality drop-in group. There's also a membership handout. You may have seen it at the doors with lots of information for new visitors, friends, and members. Those who have signed up for this year's Chalice Circles will get confirmation emails this week, and you can come see me if you have questions. For today, thank you to those who brought their family favorite treats to share. Thank you to Dakota and Drew for helping make coffee and set up. Please stay for our fall member meeting where you will learn more about our proposed bylaw updates, as well as our statuses on staffing, finances, programming, strategic planning, and a message from our governing board president. This is a meeting you will not want to miss. There's also not a Zoom social hour today due to the meeting, so please join us. To Reverend Susan, thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to having you another week next Sunday. Thank you to everyone who helped make today possible, this beautiful service and the important work of the church, which we will focus on later. Thank you for all being a vital part of our congregational life. And now please rise in body or in spirit and sing our closing hymn, number 128 in your gray hymnal, For All That Is Our Life.
Now, please join us in extinguishing our chalice. The words to extinguish the chalice are with the chalice lighting words on the laminated sheet in your pews. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
So go your ways, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to one more thing than you know. That would be, who do you belong to? Blessed be. Go in peace. Amen.